You're listening to the Academy Podcast, presenting an innovative curriculum for personal growth. Sit in on exclusive conversations with influential people as they share the secrets that made them the front runners in their industries. Now, here are your hosts, Austin and Kagid.
Austin, what's happening, man?
What's going on, brother? How are you feeling today, man? You all right?
I'm feeling good, Doc.
I like that
good, man.
That's very.
You like this, don't you? Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It's good.
Love, hate, man. Going all the way back to the 90s.
That's it.
You don't know nothing about the 90s, boy.
I'm an 80s baby, but I was born 89, so I'm definitely younger than you. For all those who listen to the Academy Podcast, G is older, just so we're all on the same page. But
Hey.
no, I consider myself an 80s baby. December 1989. I just made it.
You confused, dude. You can't be an 80s baby just because you were born in 1989.
I disagree
You
fully.
don't remember the 80s at all.
I do.
No, dude.
I do. I was born as God's gift.
You wasn't even talking in the 80s, Doc. You can't be an 80s baby.
I don't know.
You don't know nothing about wearing fluorescent socks to match your fluorescent sweater. You don't know nothing about that. You don't know nothing about the 80s, dude.
I don't know anything about that. You're right. No.
Right. You ain't no 80s baby.
I will say that I'll take 80s, but mainly 90s. Go ahead.
80s is before rap was all that. Back in then, we just had a couple of rap songs out at the time. Rap didn't have a whole genre, though. So hip hop wasn't even flourishing like that in the 80s. We just had a few songs at a time that would come out. Back in the 80s, we listened to everything. So now you got cats who can just listen to hip hop and they got enough material. They got enough stuff to go on. You couldn't just listen to hip hop in the 80s. You was mixing. We was listening to George Michael, George. I can't even get off the Georges, dude. We was listening to everything in the 80s.
Who's your favorite rapper in the 80s?
Huh?
Who was your favorite rapper in the 80s?
Dude, I mean, if we ain't even, I ain't talking 89 because I ain't going that far. I'm talking about early 80s. I'm talking Run DMC. I'm talking Hard Times. I'm talking It's Like That.
Okay.
I'm talking, yeah. That's what I'm talking. So
Those
we can get to the late 80s and that's I ain't even going there.
So you're saying that the early 80s were different than the late 80s?
What?
You're saying that the early 80s were different than the late 80s?
Oh, absolutely. You talking about a baby, man. Hip hop, you know, it started with Apache and all that stuff, Melly Mel and all of them, you know, hip hop was brand new. Right. So every few years, hip hop was changing. Hip hop was growing up. If you think about me, dude, you look at me 10 years ago, I look exactly the way I look now. But you take a 15-year-old and take them back 10 years and you see the difference. So hip hop back then, man, was making changes and making moves. You talking about going from Curtis Blow to LL to you know, it's a big difference. So
hip hop is a huge part of my culture today. But you know, the music of today, you know, I know has been inspired by the music of the past for sure. You know, I think that of course with social media, rap is more mainstream. We're getting so much content all at once. But I know that back in the day when albums would drop, everybody would rush over to the stores, grab the records. Man, was there a record that you rushed to go get, bro, that you just was like, yo, I gotta get this joint?
Okay, I might be embarrassed to say it now because it was a one-hit wonder, but yo, I had to go get Roxanne by UTFO, dude. I had to get the UTFO joint.
UTFO.
I had to get it, man. I had to get it, man. I had to have it. And that was, I think that was that one, and the New Edition album was like the first albums that I bought, you know, with my own money, you know.
Yeah.
So
those stood out to you.
And yeah, Doc.
Yo, before we bring on our major guest, I gotta ask you one question, man. You still got any records now from the 80s at all in the house? You got anything now, bro, that you still got?
I got my record.
Really?
I got my record.
Oh man.
And you will never hear it.
So you got released music? Ever. Ladies and gentlemen, right here on the Academy Podcast, a curriculum for growth. We may need G to go ahead and drop his record.
You got to go back to 1989 in Detroit, and you might have heard it, but you will not hear it now, Doc.
What was the title of the song? Just give me the title, man. Just give me the title.
Yo, you definitely ain't gonna hear the title.
Man, he's a pastor now, guys. He can't release what he used to put out, man. He's different now.
No, that's not it. It was whack.
Oh,
yo, my dad wrote it, dude. My dad paid it and wrote. And I told him, I'm the rapper. I need to write it. He was like, no, I'm writing it. Yeah. I've been rapping before you was born, boy. Right. You ain't started rap music. We started rap music. He wrote the thing, dude, had me sounding like I had on bell bottoms and my shirt up down there with the hairy little chest, man. Had like wearing an afro. That's what had me sounding like, man.
Yeah, everybody.
My name in the rap, dude. My name is G, but my name in the song was Felonious T Hump Dog.
Oh man, Felonious T Hump Dog.
I said they don't like this stuff.
Hey, those who are on social media, make sure you drop in the comments that you want to see this Felonious Top Dog, whatever you are, to drop the lyrics.
Hey,
song,
hey, put some spec on my name, boy.
That's it, bro. That's funny. We got to get a graphic on that. Yo, so I'm excited, man. We got a great pod today. Hip hop is a huge part of my culture. We got a great guest on here. He's one of your homeboys, man. Who we got today, bro?
Listen, man, my frat brother's in the house, man, and the subject that just crossed my mind a few weeks ago, he is the perfect person for this subject, because I wanted to kind of talk about the hip hop's mirroring kind of what's going on in the community, what's going on in the world,
right?
And when I called Robbie to ask him to be on the show, man, and he's told me what he was doing, I didn't even realize, man, he is the perfect individual to talk to. He's a lecture fellow at Duke University for the past 16 years, man, teaching hip hop. So he is the person that we can ask several questions and pose several questions to, man. And I'm glad Robbie is in the house. Morehouse College.
Morehouse.
All right. Spring 94, bro. Come on, man.
What's up, team? It's good to see y'all, man. Nice to be on here with you guys, man.
Good to see you guys too, man. Man, I feel like I'm kind of getting ganged up here, man. You keep having your bros on here, man. I'm not a bro, man. I need to tighten up, man? Do I need to go ahead and pledge, man? What's going on, man? So I can be part of the crew, man.
Come on, I got some work for you. Come on over.
You get you right.
Hey, Robbie, man, thanks for being a part of the Academy podcast, man. We're definitely excited to get into a lot today, man. I know G has talked a lot about you. We kind of been talking about this hip hop thing, man. We just appreciate you being on the call today.
Yeah, man. Glad to be here, man. I've seen some of you guys work, and you're doing great work, man. Hope you can continue to keep reaching people, man, with real conversations, man. This is what people need right now, especially with all the pandemic and everything going on. We need to keep expanding our minds, man. Don't get trapped up in the stress. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
That's it.
Yeah, and a stress reliever, man, is music. Music is very important, and we were just talking about the birth of this hip hop, man, and how important it has been in our lives and the lives of a lot of young people today. That maybe the baby boomers can't actually relate to as much, but so we brought you in today, man, to pose these questions. As I've been looking at what's going on out there. And I look at music and I think back to the Sound of the Police and F the Police. And I started looking back at stuff like that, and not just things that are dealing with policing, but things that are dealing with systemic racism. Right. That stuff has been in our music already. And I just wanted to talk to you, man, about how you track what's been going on in the music as it relates to what's going on in society.
Yeah. Right. So, hip hop itself, man, if you think about the four elements of hip hop, and you think about graffiti, DJing, breakdancing, and emceeing, those are the elements, the foundations of hip hop. That first one, graffiti, people often try to figure out, how does that really relate? But if you think about what graffiti is, graffiti dates back, a long time, and it's usually about, or it started in Europe, in a lot of places for war protests, right? So graffiti is like, you're putting, words in somebody's face where they can't really remove it. They have to face the truth, right? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So graffiti starts to be the spirit of hip hop. It's all about putting it in your face and making sure you can hear it, making sure you're not scanning over it and not going by it. And if you think about it, hip hop starts, late 70s, you start to see the parties in New York. But then when the records started to drop, in 79, the first record, of course, the big one is Rapper's Delight. Rapper's Delight got some traction, right? You know what I'm saying? People were like, oh man, this is new. But it's really just, rapping over disco breaks, right? It wasn't really until Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five come out with The Message in 81 or 81. And that's when hip hop really starts to really make its mark. as a conscious representation of what was going on in the community. One of the first times you see hip hop nationwide is on 2020, and they're talking about the message and that video and the things that come from that.
Right.
With Grandmaster Flash and Furious 5, and that kind of set the tone. You had some commercial success, and so you start to get the two different sides of hip hop. There's a commercial side where this is our basketball and our football and our opportunities to get out the hood if there are no other opportunities, right? So a lot of people look at it like that. But also there's another side of it where people have to be conscious and have to be responsible with that weight of exposure and the weight of the influence that you have, that you wield as being a hip hop artist that gets traction. And so you have two different sides, and those two sides exist forever in hip hop. You have it today where you have guys that ain't gonna do nothing about nothing, and then you have another set of people gonna do everything about everything.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And then you have people in the middle. That's just what we are. But it's also a reflection of our society, man. Hip hop's always been a reflection of whatever's going on in the hood. And in the hood, you got the exact same thing. So it's not gonna change. But it's always been there for us, man. And if you go through time, we can talk about it as we go through this cast. If you go through time, you'll see that these two elements are always present, and there's always this like kind of balance and fight. I think one of the ultimate examples of that was Tupac, where he really had serious tear in his personality between being a righteous, upstanding brother that ain't gonna do nothing to the women and being the worst kind of dude that there was. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, I think we see it throughout time.
Yo, Rob, I wanted to ask you, man, I feel like some of the greatest prophets, especially in the African-American culture, have been hip hop artists. You just brought up Tupac, talked about Biggie. Talk about the traction that you kind of brought up earlier, kind of expound on that a little bit more, talking in terms of when it kind of came on the scene, what made it so hot? Why did we gravitate toward it so much? Was it just the message, or was it more that we got to see the individuals that looked like us, talked like us, went places that we went to? What was it about some of these hip hop prophets that really stuck, that kind of still influence rap today?
I think one of the things, and I almost left Curtis Blow out because his first big record was The Breaks, and that's all about what's going on in the hood too. I'll just say this, man. Rap. What separates rap, in my opinion, from other music forms, in addition to the fact that it's not, it's becoming much more melodic and harmonic, but it is really a tonal type music, which is takes us back to a lot of what we had natively, right? But also the amount of words that you get to fit into one song. If you look at any other song, singing genre or genre of music where there's vocals involved, you're going to have way fewer words. And sure, you're able to relay a huge portion of emotion and passion through those words and information. But with hip hop, the amount of words that you can put in the song just allow you to input so much more information, so much more content, so much more context for what you're talking about. You have so many more opportunities to take a story so many different directions and in detail in a short amount of time. And I think that that's something that really, I know that's what I gravitated to, just hearing, Lottie Dottie and the message and all of these early, I call the early stuff pre-85. That stuff, hearing the Run DMC, it's like that you mentioned earlier. These are the types of things that really gravitated me towards it, because I already had a dad who was, doing political stuff in the neighborhood, in the community. And, it kind of brought a lot of that stuff home for me. You know what I'm saying? And not only that, but I felt like on a level, and this is weird maybe, but on a level, I felt like listening to the rap from different places in the country, just like Kagia said, you used to have to listen to all of it because there wasn't a lot of it, right?
Right.
So hear the hip hop from every different geographical location. I felt like I knew something about people from those areas. You know what I'm saying? Because hip hop was such a truthful representation at that time of what was going on. Obviously, it's morphed into something that's a lot more fictional than it is factual in a lot of cases. But the original hip hop was really about representing where you were from, who you were, and being honest about it. This whole thing about whackness didn't come about until later because people started to be fake. Before, it was all about keep it real, and you had to, or else, you would immediately be, sentenced to cancellation, is what we call it now.
Right.
But, now it's a totally different game as far as that. But that's what really attracted so many people to it, and why you have people that are me and Kagia's age and older that are still very much so involved in hip hop culture. It's not just a music, it's a culture. The music is a byproduct. The culture is where you have to have, that balance of self and knowledge of self. A lot of different, spiritual things come into hip hop at various different places when you bring Eric B and Rakim in, all that kind of stuff. So
yeah,
it's one of those things, man. It's always been here.
So I was thinking about the fact that back in the day, we had moved to Columbus, Ohio. It was very nice. You know, we didn't have a lot of rap music. It took like when Houdini came out, like we didn't get them till like 6 months later. I mean, we were late with some stuff, but at some point, you know, we started getting stuff on time, and Boys in the Hood came out. Gangster rap had started, and around that time, man, a lot of shooting started happening. Everybody was shooting. People were getting killed left and right, man. The clubs were blowing up like that, and so we see that gangster rap music had a huge effect on that town that I lived in. So when I start talking about what comes first, the chicken or the egg, because, you know, when NWA came out, they said, we just reflecting what's out here.
Right.
So, but when they reflected what was going on in Compton, they said in Columbus, Ohio, all right, we want to get down too. And so to me, that says something about the power of hip hop,
right?
To change things, and so that can go both ways. What do you think about the power of hip hop and how powerful it is in either direction?
I think it's super powerful, man. But you know, I'm also like I skate the line on this one for a couple of different reasons. You know, it's one of those things where it's kind of like the force, right? You got to have, you know, 2 on one side or 2 on the other side. It's got to be balanced, or things are off. Right, you know, too much regular good is going to make things a little unbalanced, and the, you know, the repercussions are going to be greater. And too much bad obviously makes things too harsh on people. I think when you look at and you mentioned it perfectly, almost, bruh, the chicken or the egg. You know, is it that hip hop was reflecting something that people in Columbus picked up, or that the people in the streets brought the stuff to Columbus? You see what I'm saying? And then it started to spread out, or was it that you became of age where these things actually, you started to see this stuff, you know, because you weren't at home anymore? I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I'm just, you know, that's my devil's advocate point. Now, to the other part of it, without question, you know, hip hop artists wield an enormous amount of power.
Yeah.
You know, I'm often almost like, oh my God, especially now that I got kids, man, I'm like, oh my God, this dude is killing me right now. You know, why is he saying this? You know, I've got to go and reteach all of this right now.
Right.
But at the same time, who are we to hold this young man who may not have had a father figure, or may not have had a mother figure, or may not have had community figures to upraise him or uplift him and give him the direction that he needed in order to be the influence that he's supposed to be? You know, are we not, just happy that this brother's not out in the streets for real, killing people, and that he's just talking about it and doing his own, he's doing his Scorsese instead of, doing his Gotti, you know what I'm saying? And so it's one of those things where it's a real thin line that you have to walk. You know, do you really want to attack? And we saw this with C. Dolores Tucker, with Luke Skywalker, when she was going after all the rappers and things like that in the late 80s and early 90s. She I think she was a congresswoman out of Florida. But you know, the point was that, you know, she was going after these guys for cursing and stuff like that. But you know, the crime is crime. You know what I'm saying? And crime against each other, that's no good. You know what I'm saying? Are we really trying to persecute these guys for doing something they just don't? Maybe they don't know. I always, you know, as somebody, I feel like I've been blessed, you know, to have opportunity. You know what I'm saying? Whether it's both my parents were in the house, and they pushed us to be educated, me and my sisters. I had community figures. I had extended family. I'm very fortunate. You know what I'm saying? I got an opportunity to go to Morehouse. You know what I'm saying? I was able to graduate. You know what I'm saying? I paid my loans off. I've had opportunities to teach it, but I have been privileged. Everybody doesn't have those same opportunities, those same vantage points. You know what I'm saying? And so you cannot hold Future or whoever completely responsible for what they're saying to the youth. I don't know that I can hold them responsible without trying to sit down and talk to them first. I think that's one of the things T.I. tries to do with a lot of the guys, is just talk to him about it, because, you know, he is one of those people that saw both sides of it. You know what I'm saying? And he's one of those Tupac type of characters where, you know, he has some really good stuff to say and some really ridiculous stuff to say. You know what I'm saying? And you have to, but you have to balance it out. When you balance it out, it's palatable. We just have so many people that just don't have the they don't have the wherewithal or the exposure to be able to balance it out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't think any of us really want to just destroy our community, do we? You know what I'm saying? They're just trying to make money, and that's what they see and know. So I can't really be mad at them, until I've talked to them personally, or if I've known somebody, I've seen them have a conversation about being, ridiculous. You know what I'm saying? And
Right.
you have to realize that, okay, they're just ridiculous. But, some of them just on drugs, bro. You know what I'm saying? I mean, just
Right. What they're saying is true. Right.
I'm serious, man. Y'all gotta leave the pills alone, man. Y'all
Yeah.
For real, bro.
So, bro, tell me though, how much of a role does money play? And this is from kind of both angles. How much role does it play in the fact that I want to sell records, and how much of a role does it play in the fact that there are record labels who have to agree to put this music out?
Yeah, so
I think it's a money game.
Yeah, so I think if you look at the money game really came into existence when you get MC Hammer in the game, right? Because MC Hammer is the one that changed the lanes as far as the money. He's the first one with that $30 million deal and all that stuff, and he was blowing the stupid money and with the gold, fixtures in the bathroom. And that was MC Hammer was the first one to do that, right? So he was able to blow the game up with completely commercial stuff. So that's when the label started to say, hey, I need to push these guys to do this other stuff over here because they can make more money and cross over and blah, blah, blah. And so that's when you have this fissure. And that's why stuff got even more gangster, because NWA was doing the exact same thing Hammer was doing as far as selling records. They just didn't have the exposure, right? You know what I'm saying? And they were doing it completely unfiltered and uncensored and almost independently, right? Because Priority Records was like nothing, you know what I'm saying? At the time, they were the ones who distributed Ruthless Records. And they, were just a record label that had the ability to get the records out. And so that at that point, that's when you start to see a split. You start to see, especially down south, you start to see a lot more artists, and West Coast, you see a lot more artists starting their own labels, independent of the big labels, so that they can put out what they want. The difference is that some of them put out some stuff that wasn't necessarily great for the community. Some of them put out some good stuff, and some of them put out stuff in between. If you move forward a little bit and go into what we're dealing with now, I think it's a totally different situation, because the labels aren't even as impactful as they used to be. The labels go after whatever's hot. They don't actually nurture talent anymore. You have to be a YouTube sensation. You have to have a viral song, video, something before they come after you to put that money behind you. So I think their influence is a lot less than it is, or a lot less than it was. But there was certainly a point. And if anybody watched the story of Wu-Tang on Hulu, which I think is pretty good, there's a point in there that first season where they're talking about how they were trying to push the RZA towards doing more commercialized music, and but that was going on with a lot of artists during that time frame in the early 90s, especially after they saw how much money they can make off of MC Hammer. But now it's a totally different game. So people now, Public Enemy was able to stay in their lane the entire time, because that was their brand. They established their brand in the mid 80s as that. And so they never had to change. Some of these other artists that came into the game, I've even as an artist struggled with some of that stuff at times, should I do this or should I do this that can probably make me more money and get me some radio play? The payola thing came into radio, which is where, you had to pay to be played. And, and it's a whole other story about the DJ and how the DJ went down and how, the producer came up. So the DJ needed to get their money off the spins. And, it's just all kinds of power plays that go in there. But I think today, I don't think that the labels don't have that type of influence on what an artist does. And you can see, because one of the most successful artists of our era, Kendrick Lamar, is definitely a conscious artist. He certainly has that balance. But Good Kid, Mad City just charted as the longest charting rap album ever at 400 weeks. So that tells you people are very much so interested in something that exercises their brain as well as exercises and entertains them on some level, because, the gangster aspects of that, the Compton hood, particles of that album, is certainly entertaining as well. So.
Yeah, it's funny when you brought up Kendrick. Kendrick doesn't drop a lot of albums. He doesn't drop a lot of projects, but we still listen to a lot of his older music. Even Damn, what he just recently dropped a few years ago, is still prevalent today. I think the message is still there. And, in line with what you're talking about, I'm a huge fan of the Joe Budden podcast, and they often talk a lot about signing the deal, going with the company. With this whole streaming era, people on SoundCloud now, where guys like Gucci Mane, Future, they drop albums like it's nobody's business. Where back in the day, it was like folk would be lined up at the store. I think with the consumer being able to get it at their fingertips with Apple Music, Spotify, things like that, in your opinion, does that help the game or hurt the game?
The game has been hurt since MP3s came out, brother. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The game itself was selling product. You know, the game now has become shows. That's why you have to keep something fresh in front of people so they want to see you perform the new stuff. You know, the only way artists are really making money are through their live performances. You know, this streaming stuff, man, you can't generate no money off this unless you're doing billions of streams. You know, YouTube, you know, has given people a lot of different ways to, you know, dive into the music stream, whether it's, you know, blogs or, you know, putting their music out on YouTube. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of artists just put the songs out on YouTube individually. So if you want to go listen, you can listen for free, but eventually they're going to get paid for that. It's better than it being pirated, like what was happening. MP3s allowed pirating to go nuts. You know what I'm saying? People were able to transfer music like that. You know, the sales of the actual product went down. So the game has been damaged from that more so than I think, you know, the streaming. But the streaming has definitely, and the ubiquitous releases, you know what I'm saying, these guys that are releasing every 2 days, that's so that people want to come see them live so that they can really get paid. That's why the tickets for the shows are going up to $200. You know, cost $15 to go to the show. Now it's $200.
Right.
Nosebleed, you can't even breathe up there. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Absolutely.
Those things. So,
all right, man. So we got a commercial break right now because if you look at the bottom corner of the screen, we have a picture drawn by an artist in Atlanta by the name of Derek Jackson. He has been throughout COVID just pumping out material, and I asked him if we can use this picture of a DJ, which is one of the elements of hip hop. And so we have this DJ down here by DJ, which we call Derek Jackson. And so I just wanted to make sure that everybody knew where you can find him. You can search Derek Jackson on Facebook, or you can go to Derek Jackson just in your Google artist Derek Jackson Atlanta. You'll find him on Google, be able to find his stuff and purchase. You can put stuff like that on your wall, or you can get it on a t-shirt like I do. And so just wanted to give a shout out to him, DJ, for the DJ we're using on our screen today. And now for the next question. Well, I want to talk about that line, officer, 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 officer. As a matter of fact, I'm going to say the line. You know it, bro? You want to say it? I want to say it.
Overseer.
Yeah, officer from Overseer. You want a little clarity? Check the similarity. Right. The overseer run around the plantation. The officer is in control around the nation. The overseer could stop you what you're doing. The officer will pull you over just when he's pursuing. The overseer got the right to kill. The officer could. What can the officer do?
I can't remember that one that well, but I was just
for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. And so just like he was talking about back in the 90s with Sound of the Police, we still dealing with it right now. And I know NWA was going somewhere when they were so upset about what the police was doing. So bro, what's your take on specifically what those two songs or others like them spoke about what's going on with the police in our society today?
Yeah, man. I mean, you know, it's no secret that for eons, man, you know, black folks have been, you know, targeted by police. You know, it's not anything new. You know, we grew up watching the scenes of the civil rights movement and having the water hoses turned on us and the dogs released on us. You know, Rodney King, the Rodney King beating is something that, you know, is still burned into my head, you know what I'm saying? And I think all of us, I think he became memeified later, you know, with this "Can We All Just Get Along?" But you know, I think that man has a new stand-up show out, a solo show. But you know, the thing you got to remember, man, is that this is just life, and again, hip hop is always going to reflect life as it is. So you know, KRS-One, you know, started out on, you know, his first album was called Criminal Minded, and it was a criminally minded album. You know what I'm saying? It was gangster. And then his partner, Scott LaRock, got killed. And then after that, everything just really went to a more positive side. He did have that balance, like we say about, I call it the Tupac balance, but he did have that. But he went on to do the song Sound of the Police, you know, Black Cop, and a couple other records that were about, you know, police brutality and things like that, because it's such a prevalent part of our community. When you talk about New York, especially which is the home of hip hop, you know, you have so many different artists at so many different points in their careers that talk about police brutality, whether it's Jay-Z or Nas, or, you know, they all talk about it at some point and touch on it at some point, because it's such a prevalent part of our community. I think that the major difference now is not really the number of people that are being killed. You know, the numbers of us that are being killed by police aren't going up. It's just that you have accessibility to these videos, and you know when it happens. The internet has leveled that playing field. Exactly. The internet has leveled that playing field and made it such that it's very difficult for people to hide from these feats and these horrible things that they do to us the same way they used to. And so, you know, a regular human being is not going to be able to look at that and not be affected. So there are people outside of our community that are being affected by these images now. And so, you know, I think that's the, you know, thing we have to consider. It's not that, you know, we weren't going through this, man, you know, and hip hop's been reflecting it, you know, Ice Cube, NWA, F the Police, you know, I mean, you know, come on, man, you know, it's been happening, you know, to us, and especially along with gangster rap. You know, that's one of the major things that I think gangster rap really pushed to the forefront. You know, KRS-One was doing it here and there, but he did, you know, Sign of the Police was after F the Police, man.
Yeah.
If I do remember correctly. And so what you're thinking about, or around the same time. So gangster rap, you know, and you know, their enemy was the police, you know what I'm saying? Because they're doing crime, and, you know, they're black, and the police are being, you know, hard on them. So that was their enemy. And so they talked about that a lot in the music. And you know, I think on some level that, you know, helped us develop the understanding of that, you know, this is not something that's just happening in my neighborhood. This is happening all over the country. And, you know, as the world looks at us, they see that, you know, these are human rights violations. So I think that hip hop, you know, on some level has been talking about it and will continue to talk about it. You know, it won't change. You know, you know, we always got songs about 12 and, you know, Popo and the cops and all that. You know, every album I've done, I think I had something on there about the police. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's as a black man, it's always been something I've had to think about that I shouldn't have.
Yeah. And absolutely. And folks that are not, you know, I had to tell my wife about this stuff because, you know, ladies don't go through it as much as we do. And so I had to kind of school her on this stuff and how prevalent it is. And it's not that I ever been beat up by a police officer, but man, I've been threatened. I mean, every time you pull me over, you got to pull your gun out, you know, just to pull me over. And I wasn't even doing nothing. I mean, the harassment level, you know, when you pulling out crack, acting like you're going to plant it on me if I don't do exactly what you say and doing stuff like that. I mean, yeah, I wasn't beat up, but so what? I mean, I've been mistreated. And so when I hear a song come out talking about the police, I'm on board because, you know, my mom, when I first went to Morris Brown, man, my mom was living in an area that whenever I drove through that area and a police pulled behind me or was on the other side of the road, whenever they saw me, they pulled me over. You know, as a college student. And so I was pulled over every single time. And so and in New York, they had stop and frisk, but whatever they want to call it, they stopped me every time for no reason. Where are you going? What you doing? Who are you? You know, and so that level of harassment will cause me, when I hear a song talking about the police, to really jump on board because I know what you're talking about.
Right. And I think that's something that connected the hip hop communities across the country, because it is something that, you know, black people, especially in black communities and lower income areas, have dealt with forever. You know, whether we're being targeted for, you know, revenue for the municipal tickets and things like that or whatever, you know, this is something we've always had to deal with, you know, and now I hope that, you know, we can continue the movement that we have going now and to try to make some, you know, serious reform, because, you know, we shouldn't have to worry, like the police shouldn't have to be another enemy for us. You know, they should really be there to protect and serve. And I was telling somebody the other day, you know, I've never really felt like that. You know, I'm not necessarily particularly scared of them like that because I'm usually not doing nothing wrong. Right. Usually, you know what I'm saying? You know, at the same time, I shouldn't have to feel like that at all because other people don't feel like that at all. They see police and they're happy to see them. And I see them and I'm like, oh, which police is this? You know, I don't know. You know, I've had to call them before and they've been my friends when I've had to call them, but then I didn't call them and they weren't my friend. I don't understand what's happening. So,
man, I remember, and I got plenty of stories, but I just remember a bunch of police coming up to me with all their guns and stuff and saying I fit the description, dude. Wow. And they wanted to see my arm, and I didn't have a tattoo. In which, bro, you know, I should have had a hit right there, but I didn't have a tattoo, and so they said I might not be the guy, but they were still like they were still antsy. They were still all around me like that. And I said, well, what are you talking about? What they said, you fit the description. They said he was in a green car. And I said, this is a blue car. Yeah. And it was like, he's close enough. And man, but they got another call and they rushed off. But man, I could have been the one.
Right.
I could have been caught up because I was in a blue car and somebody did a crime in a green car.
Right.
So if I had something on my arm at that time, they could have did whatever they did and asked questions later. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So the fear is real, man. I have grown children. The fear is real.
Yeah.
Yo, I think that's a big part of what hip hop today. Some artists are kind of trying to speak on these things today, especially with, like you said, Robbie, and G would just reiterated the fact that it's now we're not even doing nothing wrong. We still getting pulled over. I think Little Baby a couple of weeks ago dropped a track that was really powerful to some of our young people for today. But let me ask you this, man: what current or historic hip hop artists, what in terms of their message, what artists are still prevalent to you today from the past, and who are you appreciating speaking out that's current that you really appreciate now?
So there's so many artists from the past, man, that were big. I think that the one that you hear about the most is going to be Public Enemy.
Right.
And the reason you do is because they were kind of intertwined with Spike Lee for a while, who had a good run with some really conscious movies and everything on the national scene and worldwide scene. But the funny thing about Public Enemy is that the music kind of was on that, but their visuals was really what was impactful, much more so I think than the songs themselves. Like Chuck D, lyrically is okay. He's not the most prolific, but his the power and passion was really relayed in the visuals. You think about, the different stuff that they used to have in the videos, how controversial they used to be. Like, oh God, Public Enemy's got the video with the crackheads or the guy getting hung and lynched, and all that kind of stuff. So that's how they used to do it. Right. Ice Cube, with his split from NWA, really took it to the next level. When you think about what he did with America's Most Wanted, the America with the 3 Ks out the gate, told you that he was on something a little bit different from NWA. And he used that, that was the first time you really see somebody go, he didn't go 180 because, he still had gangster, elements to his music. But as far as the balance, he really brought forth a more balanced approach. And, people are kind of upset with him now with some of the things that he's been saying, but that's stuff he's been saying. And he's just following Farrakhan and everything else that he's been doing.
Right.
So, Ice Cube had a lot to say. And then you look at people like, as you get into the 90s, man, it gets weird, because Tupac was the big speaker for us for that brief period of time. And then after Tupac, there wasn't anybody that really picked up that torch.
Right.
So, you know what I'm saying? T.I. kind of picks it up a little bit. You know what I'm saying? It has
90s for sure. Yeah.
He's done much better. And I think, Killer Mike obviously is your hip hop. He is your hip hop activist. To me, he would be if there was somebody I would put Killer Mike there. Like Killer Mike has taken his platform and he has completely used it, to his advantage to improve our community, or at least to enlighten people. And he always represents and presents himself so well, could give me, we came up in Atlanta, man. And, so a lot of those guys were around. I was doing music back then, and a lot of those guys were around. And so it's so good to see, so many people from the Atlanta scene that have, some positive things to say. But you also have people like Kendrick Lamar. The West Coast was very, since Ice Cube, there are definitely some people over there that were talking about good stuff. You had the All in the Same Gang. So everybody had their one little joint, on an album. I call it the obligatory conscious rap out, record. Every album had at least one joint.
Self-destruction, baby.
Right. Self-destruction. Everybody had that one joint on the album. You know what I'm saying? But when you start to talk about the people that have, an entire album dedicated to the upliftment in our community, you got your Kendricks, you got your J. Cole's that have more of a positive thing. Queen Latifah, man, you can't forget Queen Latifah. Okay, and I got to actually rewind because we often forget the female MCs. I was about to go into some of the newer ones, and Queen Latifah not only gave birth to the De La Souls and the
Naughty by Nature,
Quest, Naughty by Nature, Moni Love, and everything that she's been able to do in radio ever since. But she's also really one of the first conscious rappers to come out with the African garb on and really just promote positive messaging, on everything. Like Queen Latifah she got gangster like on a couple records like in the 90s after she with Apache and Naughty by Nature. But when she came out and the empire that she created and the different artists that she put on, you know what I'm saying? And whether it was bringing, Jungle Brothers to the forefront, because they were all that, that's all native tongue.
Right.
So bringing Jungle Brothers up and, and making more people, giving more people an opportunity to hear them. And of course, Tribe Called Quest and De La Soul, you know what I'm saying? The things that she was able to do for them and that whole crew with her star power, you know what I'm saying, is massive. Right. And she's continued to do that in a lot of different ways, you know what I'm saying? Even if it's just trying to promote positive images of women in hip hop, man. Yeah. We definitely lack on that, you know what I'm saying, in a lot of areas because that's not what and that's where the media really affects things, man, that's what they want to see. And so they don't give us the positive images that we need of men or women in our community because the negative sells more. But
Yeah. No, but I'll say I think with Queen Latifah, I think her, like Ice Cube, they have rebranded themselves for every era. I mean, they're extremely popular. I mean, even both of them can still probably wrap the house down, but they're outstanding actors. They're activists. They can get up and speak clearly about the issues that we're going through. So I do appreciate the sense of that we have some rappers from, the 80s and 90s, even to the early 2000s who are evolving. I think Tip, T.I. making the stretch to evolve from trap music, out of Atlanta, like Jeezy, to kind of being where he is now as the activist on the street holding the signs up. I think that's a huge, huge step for someone like me who grew up on the hip hop of the early 2000s. When I was coming up on a younger Jeezy, I think I saw T.I. live when he came to A&M University when he was wearing a wife beater and the jeans, no chain on, just coming in to just bring the whole house down. To see him now, as someone who uses his platform for good, I think that's really important. Do you think that eventually more artists in this current era is going to have to evolve in that same way, or do you think that music has kind of, because it's so different now, they don't have to?
I think that, some people are going to have to evolve. I think you're going to have to be exceptionally talented in order to just stay in the lane of, just entertainment. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Otherwise, you're going to have to expand yourself. I'll go back to T.I. for a second, because I got a personal story about, I think, why T.I. is so balanced. Yeah. But if you go back to the early 90s, up and through the early 90s, hip hop and rap especially was more of a entertainment. And so people were telling third person stories, second person stories. When you start to get into Biggie and Tupac, one of the reasons why Biggie and Tupac were so large and so big is because they were solo artists that were telling first person perspective stories. Nas was coming out around the same time, but Nas was telling third person stories. He was talking about what he saw. Tupac and Biggie were talking about what they did. And from that point forward, hip hop becomes a character study, you know what I'm saying? And it plays right into the whole YouTube era where, you actually have to, or social media era, I should say, where you have to be, present all the time and people have to know everything about you. And your own story off of the microphone is almost as important as your story on the microphone. Right. But that changed with Tupac and Biggie. They're the first ones. And then Jay-Z was the first complete example of that, if you think about it, because Jay-Z had been out in the late 80s, but nobody wanted to hear him just spit fast about nothing. It was when he started to talk about his hustling and things like that and really started to put together some of those complex emotions that he had around hustling. You know what I'm saying? And Tupac used to do the same thing. Biggie did the same thing. Remember, this is the first time you start to see people really express themselves. You've had people like Slick Rick do it here and there because they're just excellent storytellers. But it really wasn't until these guys started to really relay their feelings about how they feel about, that kind of things, that you start to get a more complex view of artists. It becomes okay to both be a successful gangster rapper and also be a successful or an influential positive, influence on the community on some level. You know what I'm saying? Tupac was able to do that. He gave you the blueprint for that. And Biggie Biggie never really made any social statements, but he had the complexity in what he was doing to show the remorse and some of the regret that we had never really seen from these superhero characters. You have to remember that rap comes from an African-American tradition called toasting, where people would create these superhuman or subhuman characters like Dolomite, right? You know what I'm saying? That I'll whoop lightning's butt and eat an alligator's tail, all this crazy stuff. Yeah. Like that's where rap comes from, you know what I'm saying, in a lot of different ways. And so it took a while for people to be able to, blend both the superhero and the subhuman villain, you know what I'm saying, into one thing and really have that balance. It just took a while for us to figure out how to do that. Before that, we were just telling stories about, what we see, or we were creating characters that were usually superheroes versus people that were complex and had emotions. So once we were able to do that, going into the 90s, that's when you start to have people like T.I., who even from out the gate, even though it was trap music, he still had complex emotions about, not feeling good about destroying the community and wanting to be different, but that he had no choice. You know what I'm saying? I think that KRS-One did an excellent job with the song Love's Gonna Get You. Love's Gonna Get You off the Edutainment album. That was one of the first songs that I really heard that allowed me to play for my parents the viewpoint of why kids sell drugs. Some people just didn't, and I still maintain that's just from our opening statements today, it still maintains a strong place for me today that maybe they just don't know any better.
Right.
It's the only opportunity they had. So you can't really judge people without being in their shoes. You know what I'm saying? We have to have an empathetic ear when listening to rappers, but also there's a difference between, someone who is misguided and someone who is purposefully trying to drive our community down, and there are some of those too, so.
Yeah, man. So with the Black Lives Movement going on right now, is it, and since people are able to put stuff straight out there on YouTube, have you been able to see out there some kind of response to the movement immediately? I mean, I know I've seen LL do something, but has it been some other things out there?
Yeah, ironic to mention LL. LL ain't never used his platform for nothing other than like mainstream stuff, but I ain't mad at him. You know what I'm saying? He's also maintained a relatively positive image, which I think is positive for us. You know what I'm saying? He hasn't gotten into too much trouble. He's had a issue.
Completely. That's true. You think he played it too safe? He plays it too safe, though?
No, I think that's who he's always been. LL Cool J was, he was the solo version of Run DMC and, Curtis Blow. So
yeah,
I think he's played his role exceptionally well, the entire time. The ladies needed somebody to listen to that wasn't all talking about treating them all messed up. He was lying, but
the coach
was saying it,
That's true. That's true.
So he created a whole new genre of music for us with I Need Love. So you gotta have respect for him and know that was his lane and that was his purpose. Public Enemy was on the same label, so they didn't need two of those. You know what I'm saying? They needed one of those. So Public Enemy had that lane. So yeah. What was the last question? I was
wondering is what's the response of the hip hop community? There's been some have there been some songs coming out that are speaking to what's going on right now?
I have absolutely been seeing artists coming out with songs. I won't name any of them because I haven't listened to all of them yet, but I have absolutely noticed as soon as George Floyd's the protest started, the songs that people were putting out, because I'm a DJ too, so I get like the new stuff comes to me as a DJ. So the stuff I started to see was more about songs about I Can't Breathe and a song about revolution. And these are artists that I've never heard of. So that, they're staking their whole claim on that because they spent some money with these organizations that send the money to, send the songs to the DJs, and they're staking it all on, a conscious effort or a conscious song. I've also seen many of the artists that tend to be ubiquitous on YouTube, that have videos coming out all the time. I've seen them put something up here or there talking about it. I think that even the back and forth between No Name and J. Cole, No Name being a female artist.
That was crazy too. Yeah, that was interesting. I was gonna bring it up. Wow.
Yeah, but even that, is good dialogue for us to have. And I think that's good. I totally J. Cole is kind of talking from the perspective I'm talking on, like they don't know no better. Some of them, you know what I'm saying? We can't really, I'm not gonna sit there and judge you from my vantage point because you haven't seen what I've seen. Same way, you can't judge me. And so we have to, maintain that. We can never have a higher, mighty, higher than thou type attitude in our community. That damages us beyond anything, And
that type of rap banter was needed though, because she can rap. So yeah, I thought it was extremely healthy for the culture at the time.
Yeah.
Her coming up against J. Cole to respond to that, I thought that was strong.
Yeah,
the community definitely needs right now too. I think it was good banter for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when, Drake is still kicking Pusha T off albums, but that's another story.
A whole nother story. Yeah.
So look, man, back in the day, before my time, but still, something that I've heard was this line, man, the revolution will not be televised.
That's right.
But now it seems that the revolution is televised. The revolution is on YouTube. What do you see, or do you have an opinion on the difference between what the artists, how far artists can get and moving a narrative now that they can put stuff straight on YouTube than back in the day when they had to go through so many hoops and loops to get something played on the radio?
Right. Well, like I said, man, the restrictions on your content are null and void. You know what I'm saying? If you got a camera or even a phone camera, in a lot of cases, man, you can put out something quality. And it's just, when you start streaming, it all looks about the same. You can tell somebody who's got some high quality, but you don't necessarily need that to impact people or be viral. I think that, in the past, you used to have to get, songs vetted by record companies. And if record companies didn't want to take the risk of you doing a song that's too black, too strong, like Public Enemy used to say, although they never had that problem because they were always on Def Jam.
Right.
You had to make a choice. Do I want to, really fight this, or do I want to get my money? And a lot of times, people got families, man. So I get that part of it. You got to go ahead. If you're at work, I got to do what I got to do at my job. Why you ain't got to do what you got to do at your job? It's really no different on some level. You just got to choose whether or not you work there. You know what I'm saying? Right. So that's, the YouTube and the streaming platforms, because, it costs you sometimes nothing, man, to get a song out now and get it on all of these platforms. It's like $20, man, to put out an album. And you be on everything, you know what I'm saying? Like iTunes, Apple Music, what you want, Spotify, $20. You're out there. And so, it's a totally different game. The record labels absolutely hate that, but that's why they also only jump behind somebody once they've already done all the legwork. But nowadays you don't have to, you don't even have to keep doing it. Like Chance the Rapper still don't have. I think he finally signed to a label, maybe. But he did, made millions of dollars by himself. You know what I'm saying? Just letting people get the music.
Absolutely. Nipsey owning his own stuff too. I thought that was, Nipsey was huge for our culture.
Dude,
man.
Oh God, dude. He was the next West Coast dude with the positive messaging, man. You know what I'm saying? It was like crazy. Like
he died it shook the whole world. I mean, with positivity that he brought, but I mean, he owned his own stuff, talked about black on, buying black, had the professionalism, his lyrics spoke to the streets. And being somebody that I kind of grew up listening, I mean, he was going to be the guy, definitely, for the West Coast.
Yeah, I knew about Nipsey when, he first started out with Snoop and some of those guys, and I didn't like him as much. But then when he started to really deepen what he was talking about, man, I started to check for him, man. And I think I probably had just gotten, one of those albums, and I had it on repeat, man, with, the last one, the Victory, I think it was.
Oh, Victory Lap. Yeah, absolutely. Victory Lap.
Yeah. Oh, man, I had it on repeat. And then, they took dude out. That was one of those losses, man. And we lose way too many young people, man, all the time. And absolutely too many rappers. But that was one of the ones that really, really hurt, man. And, all the rap community kind of feel for that one because, it's hard to shape those people that can do that balanced hip hop like that, man. Kendrick can do it, J. Cole can do it, a few other people can do it, but everybody can't do that Nas stuff, man. It takes a certain kind of artist to be able to do the Jay-Z, and he was one of those artists. He had the lyrics behind him. He had a sound that was different from everybody else's. Right. And he was talking about some realness, man. You know what I'm saying?
Victory was huge. Yeah, and no disrespect to the game, for all those who are good listeners and love the game. The game is another LA hip hop artist that I've come to enjoy, but Nipsey I felt like was really going to be just a push for LA culture for sure, man.
Yeah, the game, it actually does a really good job of the balance as well. It's just that, people just question his authenticity so much.
Yeah.
Really listen, but if you listen to him, his and this is just a side note, his style is that he imitates the other artists around him. You know what I'm saying? That's why his Advocate album was so great. And if you listen to any song he's on with anybody, he is imitating and taking their style and using their style on the same record with.
He's extremely versatile. Absolutely.
Oh yeah, man. No, very talented MC and has some deep stuff. A lot of his work has been deep. So
yeah, man. Yeah, for sure.
All right, man. Do you have a word for any young aspiring artists coming through?
Oh man, speaking from the perspective of somebody who is a ill MC, to put out music for a long time and still putting out music. I think that the key that probably I missed out on some level is just, putting out whatever it is you feel the most. You know, don't try to shape yourself for anybody else or shape yourself for an audience. Put out what feels good. You know what I'm saying? I got to that point at some point, but I probably missed a couple opportunities here and there because I wasn't being true to myself, and I was really trying to conform to what I thought people wanted to hear versus what I wanted to do, or what people were trying to get me to do instead of what I wanted to do and who I wanted to be. You know what I'm saying? If you're true to yourself and then you couple that with that grind, you know what I'm saying? You got to have that grind, man. You got to get on social media, man, make yourself ubiquitous. Get yourself out there. You know, when this pandemic calms down, go do some shows. Don't do no shows right now though, because you're gonna catch it. Microphone nasty. But you know, really believe in yourself and do what feels good and what feels right. And don't hold back. You know, don't try to hold back for the next level. Just give it all every time you're out there. You know, whatever. Put it on.
I got to ask you this, man. With new artists, old artists, this thing on Instagram right now, since we're not doing shows, talk to me about verses, man. How have you appreciated that? Have you seen some of the verses?
Yeah.
Well, I love the two artists kind of coming together. You know, even though I love when Luda and Nelly got together. I love when Erykah Badu and I think it was and oh man, her name is slipping me right now. Jill Scott. Oh man, talk about that, man. How did you appreciate the verses kind of getting into the world of the DJs a little bit and the MCs get into their bags?
Yeah, man. I mean, you know, hip hop starts with the dance hall, right? Because Kool was the first hip hop DJ is from Jamaica. So the first thing he sees is dance halls growing up. And when you have dance halls, you have what's called sound clash. We have two DJs on opposite ends of the dance hall, and they play sets at different times, and whoever wins gets to finish out the night, right?
Right.
So hip hop started with competition. That's why you have the MC battles, you have DJ battles, you have breakdancing battles. It's always some kind of battle, right? So whenever you bring something like this into it, where it's a competition, and especially the good-natured competitions that we've been seeing.
Absolutely.
The Erykah Badu, Jill Scott competition was just awesome because if you think
it was amazing.
Yeah. See, Jill Scott is, she's really an Erykah Badu protege if you think about it, right? You know, because Tyrone came out way before her first joint. What was the first joint when she was going over to get the girls? Earrings off. I can't remember the name. I can't think right now. But you know, if you think about it, Erykah Badu was kind of like her idol on some level. You know what I'm saying? They were certainly contemporaries, but Erykah Badu was out a little early, and it was just so much respect. With that, you know what I'm saying, battle. And then you've seen some other battles that were not as respectful, but certainly still good-natured.
Definitely.
You know and I think that's what it's all about, man. You know, everything is not about the Tupac and Biggie murders and the Pop Smoke murders and, you know, all of this other stuff. These people are dying, man. It's really about, you know, friendly competition and just trying to be the best person you can be in whatever it is that you do, man. And if we can just relay that aspect of hip hop to our community, man, I think we've done our job, you know, because if people are just trying to be the best, whatever it is they are, be somebody else, be whatever you are, and just to be the best version of that you can be, and everything will be all right, really.
And what's crazy is, man, I think that's produced a lot of healing for our culture too. That we look for, especially during quarantine, we look forward to the verses. We look forward to, you know, and then that opened up when it was Kirk and Fred Hammond coming together, and that was birthed out of some hip hop music to start. And I just finished. I went back and watched Jadakiss versus Fabulous, and it's kind of just so funny to hear some of the songs that would drop. Like these guys just got a lot of content that you typically don't. You forgot that they used to drop, man. So it was just a lot of fun seeing just kind of the old school type of style hip hop take place, man. It was dope, man.
Yeah, man. I think that the pandemic has definitely caused people to figure out different ways to express themselves and different ways to absorb entertainment. You know what I'm saying? And so we're always been a creative people, so. I don't doubt that more things are going to come out soon. You know, we're going to see more stuff. So
that's it.
So Robbie, we have a question we always ask people. You know, where can we find you? But with you, it's a little different because you got content. So besides, and look, TV audience, we didn't tell him we was going to do this in the first place because I just made it up 5 minutes ago. But since you got all this content, do you have something that speaks to kind of what's going on in the world that you can share with us, man? You got some bars you can put down for us before we roll out. And basically, we want to get your bona fides first, not your bona fides, but we want to get where can we find you? We want to know that so the people know where to find you, and we want to roll out with you giving us a piece of what God gave you.
Oh man, I can play something. I ain't about to be spitting no more, man.
I knew that's what you was looking for.
Yeah. You see me looking like I know I got
telling me, yeah.
Deep on here, something. But my stage name is Jay Bully, so J period Bully, Bully. And then you can also search Bully City on all social media. That's my social media handle everywhere. Bully City, kind of representative of both Bully and, of course, living here in the Bull City of Durham. Let me find something real quick here, man.
Robbie, while you looking, man, go ahead and let those who are listening know, man. Give me your top 5, bro. Who you got in your top 5, man, that you can do on us, man? Give it to me, man. Top 5.
You gotta say Tupac. You gotta say Biggie.
Okay.
I think you gotta say Nas.
Okay.
It gets real tough after that, man. It gets
you
real.
Have Jay in your top 5?
Who? I gotta say Eminem. So that's my 4.
Right, Eminem's my top 5 for sure.
Yeah, I can't. You can't have a top 5 without Eminem. I don't care what you say. How racist you may be.
Yeah,
he is spit master.
Yeah.
And then that last one, man. On some level, I want to say Rakim, and the reason why I want to say that is simply because he changed the way people rap so deeply. You know what I'm saying? Like prior to Rakim, people weren't really intellectual with their rhymes, yo. You know what I'm saying? And so the intellectual rhymes that we get from a lot of these other guys. Now, my top 10 is expansive. But when you talk about top 5, I think about influence.
Tough.
The influence. Eminem's influence is not only on a lyrical level, but also on a cultural level, because he opened the door for white guys to rap, man. There's a lot of white guys. You know what I'm saying? Like the Beastie Boys did that, but they didn't really do that. You know what I'm saying? Right. Eminem did that.
Right.
And Eminem opened the door for what's my man's name that passed away recently? Mac Miller. And these other artists and the Jack Harlow that are out now banging it out with the what's popping.
Yeah.
That's Eminem, man, to open those doors. So
he can hang with the best of them too on any track. He was gonna bring the heat.
I wouldn't even mess with him, yo. I wouldn't ever try to battle Eminem, man. And I was a battle MC. That dude is nice, man.
Yeah, man, he's a beast, man.
Yeah.
So look, some stuff is good when it's out, but then you listen to it 10 years later and you was like, why did I ever like this? Why was I bumping this? Right. So as far as some what is some old stuff, man, that you like maybe even better now than you like when it was out?
I'm funny about old stuff, man, because I the only way, as like I said, I still make music, right? And I'm about to play something that was one of my most recent releases because it's actually about what's going on now. You know what I'm saying? I wrote something myself, right? So, and I do my own production, all that. But in order for me to stay up to date, I got to listen to the new stuff and never get pigeonholed in a sound or an era. It's very difficult for rappers to keep fresh. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like I've been able to do that. I've never had the commercial success of a lot of people, but I don't ever sound dated. You know what I'm saying? Like one of the albums I'm about to put out, I ain't gonna tell y'all which one, but one of them is like 10 years old. Like all I did was like mix it differently, you know what I'm saying, to make it sound like today's music versus the way I had it mixed before. Didn't even change the music or anything. So like whenever you have that type of thing, like that's what I really look for. So it's like when I think about old rap that I listen to old rap every time I teach my class. I go through all of this old stuff. So I have like a reunion with all the old stuff every year. You know what I'm saying? Once a year I have a reunion with it. And then after that, I'm just listening and trying to perfect my own sound or listen to other people and just to see what's new and what inspires me. You know what I'm saying? Some of the classic albums, obviously, The Good Kid, Mad City is a classic album. Get Rich or Die Trying, 50 Cent, classic album.
Classic album.
Yeah, Eminem, Marshall Mathers, or the Slim Shady EP, classic. Yep. Wu-Tang, 36 Chambers. Dre, The Chronic, or 2001. I like The Chronic better than 2001. NWA, Straight Outta Compton. Eazy-E, you know what I'm saying? Easy does it. Regardless of how you feel about these people. Queen Latifah, All Hail the Queen, Tribe Called Quest, any of those first 3 albums, 4 albums, you know what I'm saying? All of that. De La Soul, anything. Yep. You know what I'm saying? Slick Rick, The Great Adventures of Slick Rick is my favorite album of all time. Slick Rick is my favorite. Slick Rick is my favorite rapper, period, hands down. Yep, he's my favorite. So I'd actually, probably have to add him up into that top 5 somewhere with somebody else. But just you could just keep going, man. They're just so Public Enemy, It Takes the Nations of Millions to Hold Us Back is one of the most powerful albums out there. And you just have a bunch of them, man. There's just so many.
So Slick Rick is your one that you might be the only one to have him in the top 5 or in the top of your list. And mine is nobody ever has Lauryn Hill up there. Man, it's the cat. What she's saying, dude. It just hit me because
the Miseducation is an amazing album.
Man, Lauren be hitting me right there where other people just didn't.
That's one of the greatest of all time.
So my issue with Lauryn Hill is that by hands down, I think she's one of the dopest MCs ever. Period. She's definitely top 10 for me. But what I would say is that she did it so wrong.
Yes.
By stopping.
Yes, that was the issue.
And she should not have said she produced that whole album, because then that made you question her on some level. And again, authenticity is important. You know what I'm saying? So she damaged herself in some areas. And then, the Talib Kweli album, song Doesn't Hurt. It doesn't help her story. The Miss Hill. Have you ever heard Miss Hill?
To be honest, she never recovered from some of that stuff.
Yeah. The Marleys, man. I love the Marleys, you know what I'm saying? But the Marleys got it.
Still dope, though, G. She's still dope, G.
Yeah, she's
top 5, man. She dope, man. Come on, man. She's top 5.
Yeah, I'm talking on my list, Doc. I'm talking on my list.
She ain't top 5. She ain't got enough.
Yeah, man.
She should have kept rapping, man. She stopped rapping.
Yeah, for sure.
Robbie, give us something, man, before we go out of here, bro.
All right, come on. Okay, so this one's called Generation, man. Let me know if you can hear this. If not, I'll send it to you later.
Willie on the beat.
This ain't new. It's been going on for generations. They've been killing us without no hesitation. But the video is worth 1,000 explanations. Explain it. And quietly, y'all still owe us reparations. So ain't no way we going back to plantations. Never. Jim Crow segregation or a racist nation. Keep that. Do it the easy way, or we can leave it blazing. Burn it down. 'Cause really though, y'all still owe us reparations. Bully. I remember when they said they had bigger brains. I guess nothing changed. What changed? But we're still in the game to entertain. Addicted to what we get with the fame. Is it a shame or is it insane? Crazy. Either way, we getting slain over something stupid. It happens so much they numbed us to it. Murdered on video, but it's still up to us to prove it. Pretty soon, the only choice to bring the guns into it. If I see one more black kid die that look like mine, I'ma lose it. We need a movement, but we motionless with hopelessness. Trying to make the most of this fraction of what we supposed to get. 48. Now with